Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me once again Dr. Quinton Hennigh. He's with me today to talk about Novo Resources, their latest numbers. They just published some production numbers from July, and they are quite good, actually. They're really pretty much living up to the economic studies that the company did before they got started. Of course, always when new mines go into production, there are issues to start with. And now, after the first few months of this year, it seems as though the company is actually hitting those metrics that the PEA suggested it could hit. And for me, as with this being one of my favorite companies, this is really very reassuring. So I'm really happy to have Quinton with me again to talk about the latest results and let us know how they've gotten to where they are at this point. Thanks for joining me again, Quinton.
Always a pleasure, Jay.
I think your production was 8,600 or 8,589 ounces, something like that, for the month of July. And, if I look at that, multiply very simplistically, if I multiply that times 12, I'm getting upwards to 100,000 ounces, which is actually above, I think, what your PEA was predicting. So congratulations on that. But tell us, last time you and I talked about a month ago, and your average grade that was going to the mill was something like 1.3 grams per ton, and as I recall, the average grade for the deposit, at least the oxides, was something like maybe 2.1 grams per ton, or so. And then I noticed that you've got 1.94 is where your latest grades were that you delivered to the mill. So somehow you've managed to improve your grade control dramatically, and I guess you're getting close to what you should be, I suppose. I'm just looking at the numbers. So tell us how you got there and how you've made such a great amount of improvement since the startup.
Yeah, most of what you're seeing here is refinement in the mining technique, but also grade control. Um, the issue that we faced earlier this year is that the laboratory that we chose to run our grade control samples on a routine basis was just overwhelmed by business, basically. And unfortunately, they were not turning around our grade control samples as quickly as hoped. We were, getting about a third of what we needed. So therefore, the guys at site, it sounds crazy, but they were mining by visually. They were mining by sight. They were actually identifying geologically the boundaries of the mineralization. And while that's a good technique, and they actually did a very good job of managing that for several months, it's not ideal. Okay, you can't assess just basic things like reconciliation, dilution, stuff like that. Everything that we can say to date, or at least before July, was a visual estimate. People say, well, what's your dilution? Well, we basically, we're mining a layer. So if we see, we can see about how much we're taking above and below that layer, and we have to visually estimate dilution. But now we have a laboratory that is delivering. Okay, we have, I believe we had over 60,000 assays come back in July. And now we have that tool. We have basically the ability to differentiate things. So that helps tremendously. As a consequence, have gone back and refined yet further their mining techniques. And I think the team is doing a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm. So you're approaching that 2 gram per ton. Are you mining just oxides at this time? And I know there's fresh rock that grades a little higher. Might you be mining that any time in the future at Beatons Creek? Or is that in the distance?
The oxide, the oxide is a bit lower. If you look at our resource statement, the oxide is a bit lower, not hugely lower, but it's a bit lower than the fresh rock. Okay, so, and part of that's because the bulk of the fresh rock, the high grade, is coming from the M1 and M2 which dip off of Grants Hill and form a large part of the deposit below oxidation. Okay, like below the level of oxidation. Okay, the results that you see here are actually in line, if not better, than what we predicted with the PEA. That's encouraging. It's very encouraging. I think that the results. PEAs are plus or minus a very wide margin, as you know. Okay, so to hit, have your target with the PEA and then hit above that, that's an exceptional outcome.
Yeah, indeed. Well, so it's really very encouraging. What about your run rate? How much? I know the last we talked, I think the last a month ago or so, you were at something like 1.6 million tons per year. I think the latest one you're approaching the 1.8, which I think is the capacity of the mill. Is that right?
What actually we've been operating at over that level. Look, the guys have been very, I guess, creative is the word. They've made some physical modifications to the mill that allow the this is I'm talking the ball mill, the thing that spins around,
Mm-hmm.
that allow the material to flow through quicker. Look, we don't have to grind our rock down to absolute bug dust because the recovery is so high to
Yeah.
begin with. It's a free milling gold system. So they made modifications that they can basically get rock through that mill quicker and into the gravity and leach circuits. And because of that, we think, it sounds crazy, but we think we can operate at a significantly higher level, perhaps 2 million ton per annum. It's speculation at this point, but we are seeing uh, us, the team's achieving that number on a daily basis quite often here lately. We are doing a tailings lift. What that means is that the tailings dam, think of it like a layer cake. Okay, it builds up, and they're doing another lift, which gives us a couple years runway here. So much of August is around that, which is important because we need that next lift in the layer cake, so to speak, to put our tailings for the next couple of years. But man, once they get that done, they've demonstrated they can throttle up and put tons through the mill.
I want to ask you about this is Beatons Creek, and I know you've got uh, other areas that you're quite interested in longer term, but just in terms of Beatons Creek, how much upside is there? Because as I look at it, there's a lot of targets that you have in line just with the sort of the conglomerate stuff like you're mining now.
Yeah.
So do you see that? I mean, you can't say until you do the exploration, you drill and everything, but do you see Beatons Creek itself, without going far away from Beatons Creek, you've got other things going on, that Beatons Creek itself could sustain a mine life of beyond a couple of years, which I guess you've got
Yeah,
now.
the PEA is the life in the PEA is a little over 6 years,
Mhm.
and yeah, I do think it'll grow from there. Basically almost every deposit on Earth, usually sees natural expansion, and Beatons Creek is going to be one of them. We know we have lots of areas where the reef, these layers extend and that are not in a resource, or even areas that we have inferred resources that are not presently in the PEA that will likely come in over time. So yeah, I think we'll see Beatons Creek continue to grow. We have new targets we're testing. I think we talked about those in a couple of news releases over the past 6 months. Targets to the south and higher up section, and then on the west side of the basin as well. So we do think we have a lot of room to grow, and Beatons Creek is going to provide that base load for many years to come.
And in that area, and it's not right in that area, I think it might be something like 150 kilometers away, you have the Taga Project, which was mentioned in your last news release. And that is a different style. I mean, we're talking Beatons Creek mostly about conglomerate deposits, but this is more of an orogenic, I guess, vein system that looks very exciting. I think the press release talked about 3 kilometers of strike that you've identified and some grades. I suppose they're surface grades, samples that you've picked up, but an ounce to 2 to 3 ounces, somewhere in that range. I mean, crazy stuff. Um, are you drilling that now? Are you exploring that? Well,
Yeah.
might we see some numbers coming from there sometime soon? And the second question is, that's a ways away from your mill. So, I mean, high grade you can haul, but I mean, what are your thoughts about the possibilities there?
Okay, so look, Talga is a different style of deposit. It is an orogenic load deposit, and we have maybe 2 or 3 productive shear zones. They're actually dipping at fairly moderate angles. They're not vertical. They're dipping more like say 30 to 40 degrees, which actually is ideal for potential open pit mining. The wonderful thing about Taga is that it is high grade. Okay, there's some really flashy stuff there. There is a lot of coarse gold. It's different, it's in quartz versus conglomerate like we have at Beatons Creek. But we do think, guess what? Mechanical sorting might play a role there. We do see
Mhm.
the the gold occurs associated with quartz vein. And we know that mechanical sorting can pick gold particles, but we also know mechanical sorters can say sort on the basis of quartz. Quartz is white, other rock is darker colored.
Okay.
This could be very exciting. But I would dare say that even without mechanical sorting, I think the grade at Taga could quite well be high enough that we can truck the 100 kilometers or so to the mill.
Well, that remains to be seen. And might we be seeing some assays from there anytime soon from Taga?
Yeah. Look, they're drilling there now. It'll be as they turn around. Look, we have access to a lab now, so hopefully we'll pass that bottleneck. But I think we'll see assays over the next couple of months. Correct.
That's really exciting to think about the possibilities of mechanical sorting from there. But well, we'll wait and see. I mean, you have so many things going on, Quinton, besides Beatons Creek, which is, I think, I mean, it's probably not that exciting to a lot of people, but you have a lot going on there. And then I always have to ask you about some of those further away to the west, Karratha and
let's talk about them.
Yeah.
Look, now that we have Beatons Creek, more or less ramped up and in hand, we're going to start, full court press on some of the other initiatives that you're alluding to. Okay, Karratha, we want to sort that material. We want to see if we can start generating high grade concentrate from that material that can be trucked over to the Nullagine mill. As we've talked about a couple of times here recently, we are going to put that mechanical sorter at the mill facility in Nullagine. The guys are building the framework and stuff for it right now. That was the change of plan. We decided to do that because the mill is a permitted facility. It makes it easier for us to operate there. We will pull rock into that mill from Karratha as well as other sources. The Egina project, that will likely generate some samples that we can test. But we have other things, even like Taga that we just talked about. Mm-hmm. We can grab some tons up there and put it through the mechanical sorter and see if we can produce that upgrade material. Okay, so this is really the big picture here. Okay, Beatons Creek and Nullagine is our base case. It's a foundation for the company. It should do quite well from here on out, and it should generate cash flow. What we want to do now is grow the company. Okay, so we've got, like you said, Taga as an exploration target, but we have other exploration targets in the Nullagine area. We've got Beatons Creek, it'll grow, but we have other things in the area too. So we're going to test a lot of those. In fact, we are testing a lot of those. Mm-hmm. Then Karratha and other projects we have that we haven't even discussed here, like Contact Creek and Virgin Creek. These are things that we see now that we have experience with conglomerate and we can demonstrate their viability, that we see being add-ons to the production story. I would dare say, our goal in 4 or 5 years is to be producing considerably more gold out of this camp. Really, set up the Pilbara as a gold-producing region.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly Egina is vast, as I understand it. It's not a small project necessarily. So I would think at some point in time you might want to, perhaps you'll be building a mill up there. I mean, that's way in the future, of course, but is that a possibility? Because, I mean, otherwise you're going to have to expand. I would think you'd have to expand your mill at Nullagine.
A little bit of flavor to that one, because Egina is a bit different. That's the gravel at surface, so we don't really need a mill. It would be, it's more like an alluvial operation. You're going to mine it on site. If we produce a concentrate, sure, that can be trucked over to Nullagine. That's no problem. Well, the wonderful thing about Nullagine, the mill there is, it is a workhorse. Okay, if we can get that up to say 2 million ton per annum, that should handle Beatons Creek. But we can also start pulling in, a few tens of thousands of tons of concentrate or ores from other sources. I'm not too worried about the ability for us to ramp things up without having, say, significant capital outlays.
Yeah. Spokes and wheels, sort of exactly. Yeah, it's so also all right. So you might have some information pretty soon regarding the mechanical sorting viability too. Then, if you bring bulk samples from Karratha down to Nullagine, run those. I mean, you should be able to say how effective they are, and I would imagine you'll be seeing some news along those lines too, right?
Yeah, I think by the end of this year we'll have some very, very tangible data that we can show to the market that this mechanical sorting effort is indeed viable. In fact, inside as a company, we are already looking at this as likely going to be a success. So we're looking out at strategies where we can streamline the to actually take it from field testing, we'll call
Yeah.
it, to a potentially commercial uh, situation.
Okay.
So we're look, we got a good team in place. One of the things I want to bring up as part of that is part of our announcement yesterday
Yeah.
is an addition to our management. Okay, Mike Spreadborough is now executive chairman, co-chairman with me. I'm here in Denver. Okay, so I wish I could be there, and working 12, 14 hours a day with the crew, but I cannot go down to Australia.
Mhm.
But Mike really stepped up to the plate over the past few months. He's been part of many of our meetings, and he's really got a sense of how he can help and help grow the company. Okay, so a lot of these initiatives we're talking about, mechanical sorting
Yeah.
and so forth, it's all about people. Okay, and now we're expanding our team, we're expanding the capabilities of the team, because they have more time, we'll call it. Okay,
Mhm.
and that's what's really critical here. Beatons Creek is in hand. Now let's start working on growth.
Yeah, so Michael is the co-chairman, the executive co-chairman. You will remain on as a chairman and will be involved with, obviously, with the geology, whatever that involves. And and I understand that you will also be available for future interviews like this one, possibly.
Absolutely. Look, yeah, I will. I'd like to bring Mike and Rob in as well on
That would
some
be good.
things
Yeah.
here soon because it's been all hands on deck down there. But now the guys have pulled it off. They've demonstrated,
Mhm.
what a wonderful job they can do. I really want to see that story told more. Rob's really his passion. A lot of his passions around mechanical sorting, and I think that what he's going to bring to the company over the next couple of years is going to be remarkable.
Before I let you go, just comment perhaps on the financial condition of the company, and I believe that you had cash flow positive month in July. Um,
Yes,
and I'm wondering also, I think you're expensing exploration work on an ongoing basis too.
correct. Yes, we
So
are.
I imagine that your cash balances, which increased in July, also take into account money that goes out the door to
That's correct.
finance exploration work, right? So
That's correct.
talk to
Yes.
us, so just maybe a little overview on the financial standings of the company after about 6 months of production or so.
Sure. Look, I think in the news release we talked about the current balance and bank balance we have, and that's the way I like to think about things. That's really the most meaningful. I believe it's about 49 million. I might be misquoting, but I'm pretty sure that was the number. It's gone up. I think went up around 3 million over the month, and that's a wonderful thing because, as you said, we are including the costs of exploration, and right now there is a lot of exploration going on.
Uh,
Okay, yeah, we had a full intent to just go, full throttle with exploration back when we did that raise in April. That really gave us the assurance that we could throttle up, and the team is out there aggressively drilling many targets. The objective there, let's add ounces to, like we were talking about earlier, let's add ounces to this story. Let's make sure that mill has plenty of rock in front of it for many years to come.
right. All right. Well, it's really shaping up very nicely, Quinton. Thank you very much for spending time with us today and giving us an update. And I guess we have plenty of news to look forward to. Will you be providing monthly production statistics for the foreseeable future?
Look, we'll move to a quarterly reporting from
Probably.
here on out. Yeah, we we're kind of through that ramp up phase, so I think from here on out we need to report quarterly, more like a normal company, and then more of the news flow. I think you'll see starting in say September will start to be results around exploration strategy, growth strategy, so forth like that, mechanical sorting. Like we want to show the market, we're making money, we're making gold bars at Nullagine, but we want to show that we're going to grow from here too. So we need to get that picture back into people's minds. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the production as well as I think potentially very significant growth ahead of you. So thank you again, Quinton, for spending time with us. It's always great to hear from you, especially when you have good news. So, and most of the time you do. Thanks so much.